Hello and welcome to Education Update. I'm Naisha McCauley, and joining me again, as always, Paul Holzer.
Great to be here. Thanks for having us.
I know, right? So we are going to talk about what's happening this week in education in Hartford, and that is, first up, is the Board of Education meeting, which is tomorrow, I believe, right?
Tomorrow, 5:30, MD Fox. And I don't know the address offhand because there's so many school addresses, but most people know where MD Fox is, and it's the last meeting of the year. So hopefully folks can turn out.
Yep, 5:30, and as structured every board meeting, you do have an opportunity for public comment. At first thing, you have sign up, and you can address the board if you have any issues or concerns that you want to bring to their attention. So just a little note there. But there are several items on tomorrow's agenda that we did want to talk about, and one of those, when Richard Waring became the board chair, he set his priorities for the end of the school year, or to the end of the school year, and then also assigned different board members to different committees.
That's right.
And so Craig Stallings, who was recently elected, is assigned to the Parent and Community Engagement Committee.
Yeah, and he's got a report coming out, I think, at the last meeting.
Yes. Yeah.
So we'll see what some suggestions, recommendations, or just maybe how he sees the current status of parent and community engagement, or maybe a talk about the policy. But whatever it is, at the last board meeting of the year, so it should be interesting.
Right. So definitely, that's something you want to come out and find out more, because the parent and community engagement function of the board is one I think everyone in the community is kind of asking, like, more from that committee, or just for the board alone to just look at parent and community engagement.
I agree. I mean, I think people are wondering, like, so this committee, right, what does it do? When can I come and interact with it, right? I mean, it's kind of like this 9-person public board. There's a committee, right? They should be doing something and bringing something back to the board, in whether it's monthly or quarterly. And so hopefully Craig will have something to say about that.
Yeah. Also on tomorrow night's agenda, the CREC at Clark is being finalized. Yeah,
that's right. And so I wish there were a lot more details in terms of the MOU that I think will be signed between HPS and CREC. Because I think people have been waiting to say, okay, so what is the actual turnaround going to look like, right? So what is CREC doing? But as I understand it, I think this may just be like, here's a memorandum of understanding, HPS partnering with CREC to do a turnaround, plan forthcoming, that kind of thing. So, so I don't know how much information there'll be, but there'll be something. So at least the community, the CREC community, the Clark community, especially, will have a little bit more of a certainty, more stability there, knowing that, okay, this is happening, we're all good, the papers have been signed, let's get to work.
Right, because there's still many questions for the Clark community to want to know about their leadership at the school. Does it remain the same? Does it change? Exactly what will CREC do as far as, we all know CREC as managing magnet schools, what kind of structure are they going to bring? So I'm just throwing those out there as questions. If you're out in the community, you may want to know these things yourself. So,
I mean, teachers probably want to know it as much as the parents do, right? Saying, how are we going to have to reapply for jobs? What actually is going to happen? So this is the end of the school year. So I mean, they got to figure this out, like, right now, if they haven't figured it out already. So.
Yeah. So also on tomorrow night's agenda, there's an item about Jamoki at Miltner.
Yeah. So there had been some, I think, few months of negotiation around the MOU that Jamoki Fuse has had as the managing partner at Milner, and they're entering the third year of a 3-year contract, and so there was renegotiation of that contract, and so tomorrow night we'll have details on, well, what does that renegotiated contract look like? There's been a lot of tension between Jamoki Fuse, for those who don't know. We've heard about this, right? It's our job to hear about things and to know about what's going on, but it has been a rough road, that partnership between Hartford Public Schools and Jamoki Fuse. Not everything works out, beautifully. But, when it's adults getting in adults' ways, it's disappointing, to say the least. So hopefully in this third year, right, things can get hammered out that have not been hammered out yet, that the partnership can be high functioning, I know that culture and that climate at that school has been completely turned around. You just don't know, how much that's going to mean for the future, right?
Right.
How much of it's going to be sustainable? Is this the last year of the contract? What is Jamoke Milner going to do after Fuse leaves? So, all that stuff is stuff that you think about, but right now the focus is on, listen, can we just get the third year of this contract renegotiated and make this work as best as it can for year 3? So all eyes should be on Jamoke Milner as one of those schools like Clark that's saying, like, listen, you're in the middle of a huge turnaround. Like, how is this going? So we'll be talking about that too, but we're waiting to see some details.
One of the interesting things about that neighborhood too is going under some renovation and reconstruction. If you go over up Vine Street, you'll see they're redeveloping the housing over in that area. And I bring that up only as a segue to one of the next items on tomorrow night's agenda, which is the Lighthouse Model, which, if you haven't heard about the Lighthouse Model, it was first introduced when we were talking about capital prep going over to sand. And so this new concept of a model for a school was introduced. And as it was explained, this came out of chef negotiations. So the idea behind a lighthouse is that it's not necessarily magnetized, but the theory is if you can make the school attractive enough, you will have a neighborhood transform naturally by people wanting to move into that neighborhood.
That's right.
So you would have natural integration because people are attracted to the neighborhood because the school now is that great. The school is that attractive that people want to move into that neighborhood. So
right. And so, this is a real positive thing for Rawson. I mean, Rawson has been a school in like the low 60% proficient, high 50s for years. And this is, going to try to get them to become good to great. But, here's my take on this. This came out of chef negotiations. It came out at the end. It was, I think, a great idea for driving money that's supposed to go towards the suburban inner city mix. Just say, no, this money's just going directly into the inner city school, right? But how realistic this is, I mean, if this is a real strategy for integration, it's going to need a lot more than $750,000. Right? I mean, so I'm not going to be like Debbie Downer on this one, but I'm just saying that this strategy, all eyes should be on this strategy to say, what is this really going to do to Rawson? How are they going to use $750,000, which is a lot of money, right? But it's 1 year. Right? I mean, is there continued money? Is this like 10 years of an investment? I mean, what is the real investment in this school so that it actually was to attract people that might have left the North End, right, and gone to Bloomfield or Windsor and say, no, come on back in. This school is amazing. So, I'm just saying we have to be realistic about this. This is a great win for Hartford, getting chef money to go straight into a neighborhood school with no tie to magnetization. But I think people got to figure out, okay, so what is this money really going to do?
Well, just reading what's on the agenda in the agenda package, they talk about the other plans because it's not just making the school great. Lighthouse Model is talking about making the neighborhood attractive as well. So there's other monies that are there talking about what the plans are for Upper Albany. A town center is being proposed, redoing Albany Avenue, reconfiguring some things on Woodland Street. There's a lot actually to this. So, if I was going to say, the one to watch on tomorrow night's agenda, keep your eyes on this Lighthouse Model and what that means, because it doesn't just impact Rawson.
Yeah.
It's going to impact the neighborhood. And so
I like it.
You gotta keep your eye on that one. So, also on tomorrow night's agenda, speaking of impacting neighborhoods, Weaver has been just, for, and I don't have to say, for people in the community, I think people in the community have been talking about Weaver for some time and just what they would like to see there, how the process has been going at Weaver and getting it renovated. And so there have been a series of meetings that are being held to talk about how to move forward on Weaver. And one of the problems that emerged was that, you couldn't necessarily renovate it to everyone's kind of standard. There are a group of folk who want to maintain the Doc Hurley Field House, who also want to maintain the other aspects, the track and
The auditorium.
and the auditorium. But not all of these items can be reimbursed. You just won't get your money back, and that's a big problem if you're the city.
Yeah. Huge problem.
Right.
Yeah, and so as I understand it, right, when there were new enrollment projections that said, you know what, naturally, more like 900, not 13 or 1400 kids are really going to be the kids that will be able to attend this school.
Right.
That was like the start of an issue, and I gotta just give it up to the community in the North End for rallying, and Blue Hill Civic Association for bringing people together and saying, listen, this is not just something we're going to lay back and watch.
Right.
We got to get to the legislators and tell them you got to do something in the Senate, in the House. So, and a little bit more about that than I do, but I think all good things so far.
Yeah. So it looks like a bill was passed this past session that does allow for Weaver to break up the different renovation components of the school. And we have been talking about having possibly Doug McCrory come in and talk a little bit more about what actually happened in this past session. So it would still be good to hear more of the details on, but it looks like they will be able to get reimbursed if they break up the renovation into these different phases.
Whatever it takes.
Yeah.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah. So definitely that's another item to stay tuned
and
for.
One thing I'll say about this, though, because I'd be remiss not to mention it, we'd be remiss, is that once people are done talking about the building, then the conversation has to change in the North End to the school, academies, the quality, and what's actually going in there.
Yeah.
Because people have been relying on Hartford Public Schools for a long time to just design schools, and design is important, but it's not like design has saved MD Fox, Sand, Milner, Burns. I mean, design is one thing, but there's so much more that goes into making sure that the quality of those schools are great, and the North End deserves such an amazing Weaver High School, and that community is going to have to rally soon around what is it about the new academies in the building that's going to make them amazing. So
that's an excellent point. A couple of other items on tomorrow night's agenda, and one of them we have some new principal appointments.
Yeah, so there's a lot of new principal appointments, only 2 of which are on the agenda, but I know more are coming. So, I look down here at the agenda, they talk about Lorraine White, who I think is retiring from Wish. She's been there a long time. And there's a resident principal has been under her. She's been a resident, I think Keisha Ryan's been a resident principal for 2 years, the last year of which was at Wish. So this was a nice kind of succession planning, so she's taken over at Wish. But then there's also a new appointment at Law and Government. Adam Johnson had left a few months back, and so there's a permanent principal being assigned to Law and Government. And for folks thinking about Hartford Public High School, it's not just Law and Government that's getting a new principal. There's nothing in the agenda now, but soon enough there will need to be a principal assigned for nursing, because the Hartford Current had reported earlier a couple months back that Principal Chambers, David Chambers at Nursing, was taking over the principalship at New Britain High School next year. So there's going to be a lot of change in Harvard Public High School.
Right.
So, the Academy for Engineering and Technology over there still has their principal, Mike Maziarz. We have 2 out of 3 new principals. So, this is, nothing gets done. Things don't get improved without principals and principal stability. So this is a huge issue for the city. Also, folks may not know, but Terrell Hill is leaving High School Inc. So at some point there'll be a new principal assigned. I know at his graduation on Friday night he introduced someone he said would be the new principal, but I haven't heard word of it, so maybe it'll be announced tomorrow night as well. So this is 4. I think there were 7 announced in the last Board of Ed packet. Not all of them were new. Some of them were acting and made permanent. But this is a huge issue, so I think for those who read our newsletter, we're going to write about this on Thursday this week to talk about all the changes that have been experienced in the principal position over the last few years.
And you mentioned principal stability being key to just improvement in performance, and so we need to talk about that. And just as a community, we need to talk about that because that is a key component.
Yeah.
So.
The next superintendent, this has got to be a huge thing for her. Yeah. So, and I imagine she'll talk about it pretty soon after she gets here. So.
Right. Just one more item, and briefly, Leadership Greater Hartford is also on the agenda.
That's right. So they're back. I think this is the fourth year in a row that they'll be getting a contract to do some coaching, some process coaching for, I think, at least half of the school governance councils. So I think school governance councils every year get to opt in to process coaching, and those that have asked for it, I think, have been very happy with it. So LGH continues to get the contract year over year, which is a great partnership, I think, between HPS and LGH. So, but for those that were wondering, LGH is getting another year contract.
So a busy summer ahead for the district, definitely, because this is a jam-packed agenda, Paul. There's a lot going on.
There's a lot going on. Listen, this is just a Board of Ed meeting, not
Exactly.
to mention everything else that they're working on. So
Yeah.
Huge. But busy summer for us too, right?
That's right. That's right. We had been talking about in the past couple of weeks blended learning, and why we were so excited about blended learning and how this could really be a game changer for students. You know,
Huge game changer. I mean, this. I mean, you're not going to talk about something as important as this for this and changes in leadership. I mean, is like or stabilizing, getting great principals at schools. I mean, can make the difference. In everything that happens under the next superintendent.
So on July 9th, Achieve Hartford, us, we're hosting a forum or a community conversation to talk more about blended learning and inviting different groups of folk to come in and learn more about it. Because that's one of the first steps to this work is you may hear the word personalized blended learning, but what does that mean? What are we talking about? And so come to this forum, and we're going to have more information at the forum. And
morning of July 9th, Lyceum. There'll be a speaker to kind of get people psyched up on what this is, feel like people understand it, and then we'll break out into some community conversations, some small focus groups, and you guys will help us understand, well, what does the community need to really understand and get behind something like this. So looking forward to that.
Yeah, so this is just the beginning, but there's another big project that we're excited about.
Yeah,
we had to kind of hold off on sharing the good news, but it's pretty big.
Yeah, we've known about this for about a month now, but our grantor, Lumina Foundation, which is the largest education foundation in the nation, has chosen Hartford to be part of its second cohort of cities doing degree completion work. So if you think about how many kids are graduating now, how many more kids are graduating, you know that there's a problem in how well prepared they are, right? That problem shows up after graduation, when they get to college, community college or four-year college, or even post-secondary certificate. It shows up when you look at how many of them actually complete college, right? You actually complete 2-3 years of community college. I mean, this is a huge, huge issue. Everyone knows about it, right? And so what are we going to do about it? And so that's why Hartford has been tapped, and Chief Hartford's been asked to lead a coalition of folks to look at the local higher ed institutions and saying, well, what can you do to make sure that you're supporting and retaining the Hartford kids more? Looking at K-12 to say, how do we make sure that the kids are actually better prepared to get there, right? Are they in college prep programs, right? Right now there's about 400 or 500 high school kids, and out of 1,500 a year, out of 6,000, right, that are enrolled in college prep programs, right? There's more that have some college prep programs in their school, but there's still a lot of students falling through the cracks that need this extra preparation. So then we're got to look at the families, the residents, right? We got to get people much more aware about what it means to prepare your child for college. And so this is a huge effort, multi-year effort that will launch this fall around degree completion and college readiness. And we're very happy that Hartford has been tapped. This is going to bring a lot of high profile to Hartford and potentially more funding. So we're very excited to lead this effort, and details will follow.
Yeah. So I'm excited about it because it does mean a busy summer for us too, but it's great work. It's great work.
And this is part of, we just went through strategic planning. We got to play this role. We're independent. We can convene folks. We can build some coalitions. We can look at data. We can drive actions, changes in behavior. So, this is a great time for Chief Hartford to start really adding value in the city, and we've chosen personalized and blended learning and college readiness as our two main issues for the next 2 to 3 years. So, big kickoffs this fall.
Yep.
For sure.
So we are just about out of time, but before we go, wanted to remind everyone who applied for a magnet school or even to your local neighborhood school, you have hopefully received a letter or an email from either Resco or Hartford Public Schools informing you of your placement. And, you know, one of the questions that always comes up, Paul, and I even get it in the office from parents is, you know, I received this letter, now what happens? What do I do? So just urging you, if you received a letter, please respond to that letter because you will lose your seat. If you have been placed at a school, particularly a magnet school, and you do not reply to that letter, you will lose your seat. And I know one of the first initial round of magnet placements, that's due back today. Like you have to get your letter back today. But there's been a series of lotteries. So
you got to look at your letter. Right?
Look at your letter. Definitely get it back
and if you didn't get in, right? How are you feeling right now?
You know, you're disappointed and frustrated and mixed in with a little anger. You know, it's crushing, particularly if you have been applying for multiple years now, trying to get into a magnet. So,
don't want to be in that situation. And for parents who have a child in a magnet school and a child in a neighborhood school, you may love both, but then over time realize, wow, you know, my magnet child may be moving at a faster clip. We hear that a lot, you know, and for those families that are trying to get, you know, their sibling to go to that sibling school, it can be tough to do that, regardless of how the magnet lottery gets weighted. You might be applying 2, 3, 4 years as a parent and get rejected 4 years in a row. So, so I think it's time to really bring some folks together and talk about this, right? I mean, it's the end of the school year. Folks are getting their placements. So what are our plans for that?
Well, we are talking right now with a couple of partners in the community about doing a rally, just a call to attention, which I think is the first step. Like, people really need to understand how many parents are out there trying to get into a high-quality school. I think you should see those numbers. They should be present in everyone's mind, just what the need is here in Hartford. There's still a lot of parents who are trying to get into a high-quality school, and year after year, they're getting waitlisted. So.
So be on the lookout then for a notice about a big rally, just to talk about the need for higher quality schools in Hartford. So we look forward to helping bring partners together and make that happen. But I agree with you. This is like an issue every year, and now people need to understand, well, how big an issue is this?
Right.
It's huge.
Yeah. So tomorrow night, don't miss that board meeting, last one of the year. If you need more information, give us a call, 860-524 244-3333. You can hit us up on Facebook, Twitter.
It's been a good weekend, I guess.
Yeah. So thank you for joining us. Thank you, Paul.
Absolutely. Glad to be here. Thanks for tuning in.
Okay. See you next week.